Corona, manager FanDuel, and manager Chipotle in the house. This week was quite interesting. There were some bold finishes in many leagues, and there were some teams that the managers they're a little worried right now because their record isn't sort of reflecting what their team should be. So we're here to coach the viewer, you guys, on how to improve your team and make the playoffs. Really, how to come back from a 2-6 record or 3-5 record currently, and make that final push. So, Manager Corona, you're probably you know from experience you're one of the best examples of doing it yourself. Could you explain what the process of going from 2-5 to playoffs last season was, and what are some of the considerations the viewers should be taking away from it?
Yeah, I mean, being at a 2-5, 2-6, 3-5, whatever, that almost out of playoff contention spot is, it's a little sad, but you can't lose hope. That's one of the most important things I learned. You can never lose hope. You always have to be ready. You always have to be on the go. Um, it's really about, for me at least, I was not afraid to still make moves. Um, Prior to the comeback I had, I was trying my best to see what can work out, pick up risky waiver wire claims, and make risky trades just so I can see a change in my team. And I think one of the best things that helped me was just not being afraid to make those changes. I mean, if you stick with the same thing over and over again and it's not working out, that's the definition of insanity, right? So I feel like you got to be ready to make those changes when you have to, and be able to accept them when it comes time for you to start winning games. So making those changes is really important, and you can't be afraid to make them.
I guess trading, you'd say, is a big aspect of moving your team around and really making that final push. So, Manager FanDuel, I got to go to you about trading. What do you have? Do you have a message for managers that are scared to trade? Their best players on their roster.
Yeah, I had a professor once who told me, and I'll never forget this. He said, if you want to see big changes, you have to be willing to change things in a big way. And I think Manager Corona hit it on the head. Like when you're in this position, 2-6, 3-5, you're no longer in a position where you can play the cautious game. You have to be willing to take chances, to take risks, and like you have to be able to find the value that others may not see. Be creative in your trade negotiations, in your trade packages. You got to think outside the box. Most managers are pretty vanilla, pretty basic when it comes to offering a player for a player or straight up two players for two players. But you got to be creative. I know there's a lot of different types of leagues out there who employ different types of assets. So if you're one of the leagues, especially that does that, then you have more to work with. But even not, be creative and make sure to keep scanning the league. You have to. There's always going to be a team out there with a weakness. Find that team and establish the weakness they have, and provide them with a way that you can fill that weakness for them. That you're going to be the stopgap for them. There's always going to be a team like that. Even if you're that one team who has weaknesses, then there's going to be another. You're not going to have 11 teams who are all powerhouses and you have one team that's just struggling out here. So make sure to find that weakness and address it for the other manager and be creative. It never hurts to think outside the box.
Certainly, you have to leverage other people's weaknesses alongside your strengths, and trading is a piece of art. It's the best when both sides benefit from it. Now, let's go through sort of some cases of managers potentially in the dumps right now, trying to figure out what sort of value they should retain. So, just doing a little exercise, Chipotle. I'm going to name a couple players. These are probably some top level players on some of these losing rosters. What sort of value would you be looking for out of these players? Let's start off with Devontae Adams.
Well, I think when it comes, well, Devontae, definitely when you deal with him, you can definitely get a lot back. And then in terms of whether it be a receiver, running back, I think it really depends on where your weakness is. And I think you can definitely gauge that depending on the situation. Like I say, if somebody's really looking for Devontae and another person needs a running back because their two running backs went out, you can definitely give up a guy like Devontae and get one solid running back and even like another decent receiver, and kind of fill in those two spots and make up for those ailing positions rather than having one super stud receiver that's giving you those great points, but you're lacking in the other positions. I think that happened similar to Manager Corona last year, where he got Devontae Adams and he gave a lot of pieces to the other manager, where he filled a lot of holes and was able to put up a couple more wins than before. So situations like that can really, definitely can make a change in your season.
Sure. So Devontae Adams, I guess you could ask for a return of a wide receiver 2 and a running back, fringe running back 2, maybe a fringe running back 1 if you're really demanding and asking.
If you play your cards right, you can definitely get a receiver 2, no question about it. In terms of fringe running back 1, running back 2, I think that really depends on the situation the manager is in, how you play your cards. But I think definitely you can get some 2 good assets in those positions, and definitely could, get some momentum going.
Got you. Now, a little more rapid fire. Corona, what about Amon-Ra St. Brown? In terms of player value, what can they be looking for?
No, yeah, Amon-Ra, he's producing at a very great level right now. A target monster. He's getting those receptions. But if you're, at the bottom of the totem pole right now, sitting at like 2-5, 2-6, 3-5, whatever, and you have Amon-Ra on your squad, most likely you don't have that consistency on your team from the other players. What I'm trying to get from Amon-Ra is maybe 2 wide receiver 2s. You could, if you're playing your like Manager Chipotle said, if you could play your cards right, you could get I personally think you could get a running back 1 and a wide receiver 2 out of Amon-Ra. And what I'm trying to do a lot is what I did last year is I'm trying to target the teams that are, like 4-4, 5-4, 4-5, like in that middle pack, who think they have that chance at the playoff push once they get that star caliber player, but then they give back in return the consistency that you need to win games each and every week.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I do think really you could get that running back 1 value out from Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah.
Now, we talked about 2 receivers, 1 underperforming, 1 overperforming. Let's talk about running back, Bijan Robinson, FanDuel.
This was a tough one. He struggled last 2 weeks ago with the illness, but other than that, I think he's proven, even in a contested backfield with him and Algier, that Arthur Smith still has that run-heavy offense, run-first offense, and he's getting the carries, he's getting the touches. So, personally, I still look at Bijan in the RB1 category. If I was going to be selling him, if I'm selling him, I'm probably not looking for an RB. So maybe I'm looking to get definitely a wide receiver 1, maybe an RB2 to supplement, or depending on what your quarterback situation is, you can kind of swap quarterbacks with that player. So now you're upgrading quarterbacks and you're upgrading wide receivers if you have running back depth, if you're selling Bijan, especially in this situation with this manager. I'm pretty sure he has some quality running back depth. But, in general, I think Bijan still carries a lot of value. And I can easily see someone getting the likes of a wide receiver 1 and RB2, or wide receiver 1 and a top 10 quarterback swap, something like that. But definitely,
I agree.
Definitely a lot of talent at Bijan.
Yeah, I think one more small thing to add on to that is whenever you're creating like a running back and trying to get like a receiver 2 or anything of that sort, I think it's kind of important to look at your quarterback. I think FanDuel touched on it a little bit. I think just having a stack on your team is definitely very valuable. So say if you're giving like a top top heavy receiver or like a top heavy running back, and you're getting, you know, WR2s in return, try to see if you can stack them up with the same quarterback on the same team, so you can get maybe double whammy to points. Just, you know, some that obviously depends on a couple of scenarios, but try to gauge that if you're trying to get some good value back in return.
For sure, that's a really good point, Chipotle. Where if look at the quarterback you have Bijan Robinson you're trying to deal. Go get the wide receiver one for that quarterback. Last one. Going to your expertise, Chipotle, Travis Kelce. I know a lot of teams might have Travis Kelce, but they're 3-5, 2-6, underperforming, and they finally want to wheel and deal. What should they expect from him?
When you're dealing with a guy like Travis Kelce, right? He's a tight end one. If I'm trying to deal with Travis Kelce, I'm trying to get at least like an elite receiver one or an elite running back one. I think when it comes to that, and a lot of people, given that the tight end position is scarce, people could really be feeding for a guy like him because he's the undisputed tight end one. So if I'm dealing him, I'm really looking at an elite running back one, or receiver one, or even combine that with a receiver two or fringe running back one, similar situation. But this is a guy that can really make an impact on teams. But I'm looking to get that similar value back, but in multiple positions. So.
Yep. Sure. Yeah. I mean, when you're dealing Kelce, you're definitely looking for that RB1 in return, that wide receiver one, RB2 maybe. But yeah, you're looking for a decent return. Well, that's going to end it for us. I don't want, if you're a manager and you're really upset that your team's not performing, I really want you to believe, I really want you to hope, because the power is in your hands. You are a manager and you have the ability to make the changes. So as we discussed today, please start dealing and wheeling. That's going to be your strategy to success. Thank you for joining today.